So hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us for this special live session. I'm Itzik Amiel, those who do not know, and we are here with a weekly Switch interview series, Switch It On. And when we talk with smart and talented people and experts on how you could switch on your practice and maybe even your life, and you are invited to join us. Today, we are going to talk about very important subject of promoting your expertise and services without selling. I know some of you that are smiling, and we're soon going to discover more. The first thing I want to ask each one of you joining us now, and I know you see you joining us, please type your name, where you're dialing from, so our guests will see who you are and see that you're joining. So I want you to see you in the room. So if you're there, you're joining us, please type your name, type where you're dialing from, so you know we are here with you in the room. I have an honor actually to have this live session with a true sales expert. And today my guest is Ian Altman. So before I invite Ian to join us, let me give you a short highlights about Ian, who he is. So Ian started, sold, and grew his peer company from zero to over $1 billion in revenue. He's then shifted his effort to helping others to grow their businesses with integrity, competing based on results instead of price. And I think that's resonant, I'm sure, with a lot of you listening to us now. Ian, the co-author of the best-selling book, Same Site Selling, now in its second edition. And he also hosts a podcast with the same name. And he published hundreds of articles on Forbes and Inc. magazine. And he's actually permanently recognized as one of the world's top 30 experts on sales. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he's currently now 13. And the Same Time Selling Academy is rated as one of the top 5 sales development programs globally. So I'm telling you, we are bringing you to total expert, and you are here for a real treat. So I think without further ado, Ian, I think that's your time to come in and to join me here. So welcome, Ian, and thank you for joining.
Thanks for having me here. I appreciate it.
You're welcome very much, and we are very happy that you had the time to be. And I'm sure a lot of people will discover very interesting thoughts, and it's resonated personally with me because I love doing things out of authenticity and integrity. And I'm sure many people here to listen to new things
Well,
that maybe never heard before.
and
So in
listen,
order to set, go
by the
ahead.
way, one of the things that I know we've talked about is the notion that I always found it fascinating that people in professional services, especially lawyers, they don't even like to use the word sales. It's like a taboo thing to even talk about. And I often comment that look, you can call it marketing, you can call it business development, but if you had someone who wasn't a client and now they become a client, you invoice them and they pay it, something was sold. If you want to call it something else, that's fine. But it's about connecting with authenticity and integrity that grows your practice without ever feeling like you're selling.
Great. And that's exactly what I want to set the stage for our conversation. Exactly what I want to say, because we want to dedicate actually to answer a very important question a lot of people are asking themselves. I mean, every professional agenda for sure is how to promote my expertise and services, but without selling. So first, I think before we start our conversation, I want everybody there relax and say to everybody there, yes, it is definitely possible, as you're going to discover today. So now if you think, what are you talking about? Yes, sure. Because professionals like you and me tend to like being professionals, but not salespeople, right? Actually, after all, if you really wanted to be a salesperson, you probably could have been one instead of being a lawyer or accountant. Do you agree?
Eh,
But I personally used to say with passion, I hate selling. And
Yep.
maybe some of you saying that as well, And you know what? I still do sometimes. But without consistent sales and business development efforts, your practice has no chance to thriving. New business is the lifeblood of every practice, also yours. So the success of your practice is directly related to how well you promote your services, but with authenticity, because you care, because you want to add value, because you're passionate of helping others, your clients. So now, what if I told you that there is a different way to sell your services and to promote them, a way that can you be authentic, genuine, and very much client centric, a way that help you to promote your services and yourself without being salesy and pushy and nudgy. This is the reason for this powerful session with Ian. And Ian, I like to start every session with what I call 10 in 1. I'm going to ask you very fast 10 questions in 1 minute. And I know you're not prepared for it, but let's roll for it. And I encourage everyone who's joining us now, by the way, I see that people putting already comments. So thank you, Mike, to joining us from Iceland. Awesome. I see David, Iris, Natesh, Gardello, all of you there. Please your name, because we want to know who you are. We want to show Ian that you're here with that room. So if you want to join us answering those 10 questions, I'm going to ask Ian, being my guest. So I'll be preparing it, and I hope Ian, you're also getting ready, because there'll be very tough ones.
All right, I'll fasten my seatbelt.
Here you go. So let's start with the first question for you, and here we go. So the first one is, promoting your professional services without selling requires new people with new skills, some people new skills, or no extra people or skills.
So it can often be done with the same people and new skills.
Great. Number two, the success of a professional practice is related to how well you promote your services. Is it directly, indirectly, or not in all cases?
It's mostly directly. It can be indirectly, but if you think about it, the people in organizations who achieve the highest level of respect in the organization are often the people who can help grow the overall practice.
And I'm sure we're going to go into it more details later on. Number three, new business is the lifeblood of every professional firm. Is it true? Sometimes, or depends?
I would think almost all the times there are some businesses that just rely on repeat business, but even then they're selling new opportunities and new projects for those clients.
Absolutely. Number four, can sales skills be taught? Always and to every professional, or only to selected professionals?
Say only to selected professionals, and the selected professionals are the people who are open to learning them. Because I will tell you that learning sales skills is much easier than learning how to practice law or most other professional services.
That's what you think. Number five, the bigger your aspire practice to be, the more critical your promotional skills. Is it absolutely sometimes? Oh, there's no connection.
I would say it's somewhat less about promotion and more about establishing your expertise.
Oh, great. Number six, do social networks have any effect on professional practice ability to promote itself? You bet, maybe, or sometimes.
You bet.
Great. Number seven, the more creative you are in promoting your services, the more likely you are to generate new clients. Agree or disagree?
I agree with that.
I think that's a simple one, just to let you relax. And number eight, the ability of professionals to promote their expertise can be done with integrity and authenticity. Spot on, maybe, or total BS.
Well, I would have to say spot on, or I wouldn't be here right now.
Exactly. Otherwise, we're in the wrong session. Absolutely. Number nine, staying top of mind with clients and connections is important for professional growth. For sure, not sure, keep dreaming.
For sure, absolutely. Because in most cases, especially for law firms, your client may not have an immediate need, but you have to stay top of mind for when those things come up.
Exactly. And some of the audience are there still dreaming. So wake up there, because you're here to hear what you should do. And number 10, the best way to promote professional services was and always be working hard. It used to be, you lost your mind, or I refuse to answer.
Well, you may have lost your mind. I would say that it's not necessarily just working hard, but it's working smart.
Absolutely. Hard and smart, because otherwise you just work hard and then you didn't do anything in life. By the way, I will ask each one of you, if you have any questions for Ian during the session, please put it also in the chat. I'll be happy to promote it to Ian during the session. So that was the 10 in 1. I think you went very successfully, Ian. It was not such a big deal for you. But I want to dive into more what we prepare in advance to talk about. And the first thing I really want to know for you, Ian, diving right away into the meat, is what is the biggest mistake? Because if you want to solve a gift solution, what is the biggest mistake that you see professional makes when trying to grow their practice?
Well, so often what happens is there are two main things that I see happen that lead to kind of frustration and lack of results. The first one is that people approach the idea of promoting their firm by talking about the firm itself or talking about their practice. So people share things like, oh, we have so many attorneys and so many offices, and people don't necessarily care about that. What they care about is, what kind of problems do you solve for your clients? Why do people come to you? Under what circumstances? Because in many cases, what I see professionals do is they describe their firm. And if you took out the name of their firm, you could apply that same description to any firm in their industry, which means you don't stand out at all. The second big mistake that people follow is that they don't have a process of how they approach expanding and growing their business. So what they do is they say, "Oh, well, what you should do is you should follow around Itzik because in our practice he's amazing and you should do whatever he does." And they think, "Okay." And next thing you know, they're wearing a navy blazer, they have something on their lapel, and it's like, "What are you doing?" "Well, you said to do what he does." And all of a sudden the person's trying to teach themselves how to write left-handed because the person they're supposed to be following also writes left-handed. It's like, no, that has nothing to do with why they're successful. Or they say to themselves, "Well, this person, they network at their country club and they're a great golfer, so I have to become a great golfer." No, you don't. You have to better understand how to engender trust and how to connect with people authentically so that they're inclined to do business with you instead of somebody else.
Love that. I mean, actually, I don't know how you know that I'm a left-handed. I don't like to play golf, and indeed, I'm wearing a jacket. I mean, I never told you that. You know that, Ian. But great. But you said a key word of it, and I love what you said because it's exactly. I mean, people ignore it. It's the process. You want the process. Maybe people have hopes, tragedies, things they don't know what to do. They cannot repeat it. But when you have a process, you said you can repeat it again and again, almost like a faucet. You know, you're opening it and closing it, and you know where you need water or not, if you're thirsty or not. So that's great, Ian. Again, I'm encouraging everyone listening to us now. Please put your name in the chat. Let us know where you're from. And if you have a question for Ian, do that as well in the chat because I want to ask your question, not my question. I'm here for you and I can chat with Ian every day, but I want you to ask your question. If not, I'll continue with my question. Those of you who are joining us now, you're invited to join us. We're talking about how to promote your expertise without selling. So, Ian, let me ask you an important question when it comes to promoting professional services. Because we've seen lawyers who are very calm, you know, in the courtroom, not litigation lawyer. Now, some of the people who are joining us, like Fabio and others, are litigators, great litigators. But some of them get nervous with potential clients. So how can they avoid these jitters in situation with potential clients? I mean, that sounds crazy, but you know, that's the real life. Really.
Yeah, it's fascinating because I remember I had one case where I actually had to show up in court and I was nervous and I was trying to figure out why am I nervous because I'm used to speaking in front of hundreds or thousands of people. Why am I nervous here? And I realized it's because I didn't know what the process was. I didn't have steps I was going to go through. I was just kind of in a reactionary mode. And I think that's what often happens in business development is you have people, and we use the example of attorneys, but it could be accountants. So an accountant isn't concerned if they have a client who's filing in 10 different jurisdictions all around the world. It's no big deal because they know the process they follow. And very often people are better prepared to deal with situations that will never come up than they are to deal with sales type situations. And so what I think is it's a matter of having a process where we recognize first and foremost that we're just trying to see if there's a good fit between what the client's needs are and what it is that we do. So it's not about feeling rejection if they didn't pick us. It's about coming into the conversation, realizing, look, not everyone's the right fit for what we do. I'm trying to figure out if your needs match what we're good at. And if so, we have something to talk about. If not, let me direct you to somebody else. And having the comfort in those situations is actually easier to develop than the comfort in the courtroom. But it's just that people spend the time preparing for trial and thinking about what they want to say in what sequence and how they want to present the information. But in a sales environment, they think to themselves, well, what jacket am I going to wear? Which pen am I bringing? And the reality is you just need to have a process that you can follow that's integrity based so you don't feel like you're in an uncomfortable situation, but that everything's pretty well planned out.
Maybe you should say it again. You should have a process to follow because that doesn't make this conversation or the process artificial, right? Even if you follow a process, right? It just make you more exactly where you are in the process, what's work, what doesn't work, so you can repeat it and do it again in the right way, right? Or am I wrong?
Exactly. So a process is not the same thing as having a script. So a lawyer in court might script out to a certain degree their opening arguments, but they're not going to script out every single word they're going to say because that would seem inauthentic. However, the lawyer, before they walk into court, is going to say, here are the things that we need to establish. Here's the information we need to convey, and we need to convey it in this order for this purpose. And if this changes, then here's the way we're going to deviate. It's the same thing in a business context or in a sales or business growth or practice growth standpoint. It's here are the conversations we want to have to see where we're the best fit and how we can help.
I think that's absolutely something you have to train. Absolutely something you should rehearse in advance and not just, come there not prepared. I mean, by the way, I want to say hello to Mike, Danielle, Stavros, Ariela, and Fabio, as I said, Rajesh. All of you are there in the room. I see more coming. Please do me a favor. Just ask some questions for Ian because I will continue. Otherwise, that's my interesting question. And by the way, if you want to interested to learn more about Ian and what he's doing in his work, because we're not going to cover everything in this session, I would suggest warmly to those of you listening to us now, go to his website, which is ianaltman.com, where you can find everything, including the academy, a link to the academy. You see everything wonderful thing he's writing about, talking about, and advising about. I suggest you go there and learn more what Ian is doing. And if you want to make sure you don't miss any one of our weekly Switch On interview series, follow up on LinkedIn, on my profile, or the Switch Hub website. You can sign up and get any business development strategies and tips, and you will be added to the list where you can find regular reminder about our fantastic guests like Ian today. So Ian, I don't see them asking, so I'll ask myself to continue discuss with you about the issue of promoting services by professionals. Because we are witnessing, and you know it yourself also in the US, but other markets, many consolidations in the professional industry. There's a lot of M&A transaction, firms buying firms, many firms also, merging in different ways or getting rid of people, just merging the names. But on the other hand, those people we're talking about struggling to expand with the newly acquired services to existing clients. And that's unbelievable to see that in those exactly what you explained before. In one end, you're nervous, on the other hand, you're a great litigator. So why do they struggle? And how do you think, from your experience and knowledge, I can overcome it?
Well, so very often what will happen is, let's say they'll acquire a firm that now has a practice area in intellectual property they didn't have before, or now they have somebody that handles estate planning or taxes or international tax or multinational investments or whatever the topic is. And so what happens is, after they've done this acquisition, they pull the partners together and say, look, we now have this new service. We have these 3 new practice areas. Go out to your existing clients, and now they'll start buying that service from us. Well, the problem is they walk out there and what they say is, oh, we just acquired this new firm and now we do this too. And the client their client thinks, well, but I already have someone doing that for me. Why should I use you? And they have no idea. So they say, okay, well, I tried and no one was interested. And instead, what we need to be able to do is, when we have a new practice area, those people need to be able to come in and say, here are the people who we best serve in this practice area. Here are the types of conversations those people are having internally. Here's what they're complaining about their existing concerns. Here's what they might be complaining about their existing resource that they're using for this, their existing firm. And here are the types of questions to ask to see if they have a need. So it's similar to what we talked about in terms of having a process. If you just say to people, go out and have these conversations, everyone goes out and has the conversations. 6 months later, there's almost no new business coming for that new practice area. And everyone wonders why. And it's because the way people make decisions is not random. I've done research with over 10,000 executives around the world on how people make and approve decisions. And when making or approving a decision, people ask 3 questions consistently. The first question they ask is, what problem does this solve? The second question they ask is, why do I need it? And the third question they ask is, what's the likely outcome or result if I engage with this organization, or if I buy these services, if you will? Well, what that means is that we need to lead with, here are the types of challenges that people come to us with. And we have to answer the question of, why would those clients be better off working with us than somebody else? Because if we don't understand it and we can't talk to each other about it, how could we possibly have a conversation with the client about it? But if we get that nailed down pretty well, then all of a sudden it changes the dynamic of that conversation.
Mm-hmm. Got it. I see that you're asking questions. I'll put that question. Thank you for that, Ian. I mean, I see that Mike asked, what platform worked best in your practice? I think in your experience, I think is related to what you said before. And do you give much thoughts to influencing the networks in which buying decision maker operate? Yeah,
Yeah.
got it.
So Mike's question. This is the question about: do you give thought to the networks that you're in? Obviously, what if you think about it? Social networks. You want to think of it the same way as if it was a physical room.
Hmm.
So why do we attend certain conferences? Well, because our clients are likely to show up at those conferences, and if they're going to show up there, we want to be there as well. So if there are groups on LinkedIn that you can connect with other people, that's a great place to be. And then what you want to make sure of is that imagine if you were at a networking event and the moment you met somebody, they said, "Oh, well, here's my business card and you should do business with me." You would probably, it depends how polite you are. You might just tell them, "Get away from me." You might run away. You might call security. It all depends. But instead, you want to think about what would you do in a live situation? Well, you would want to learn more about them. You would want to see how you can help them because that's the way real humans connect with one another. They're not trying to sell each other something. They're just trying to see where they can help. And it's the same concept here. So in those social networks, that's what we want to make sure of. And so the notion of which platforms work best, what I find is that in the business world, LinkedIn and Twitter have much more of a following than, let's say, Facebook and
Instagram.
and Instagram or Snapchat or anything like that, right? I mean, that's not really going to be your audience. However, many of the people you're friends with might in turn have other friends. So if you post something on Facebook, you can't do something that's just self-promotional because if you saw something that's self-promotional, would you want to read it? Of course not. But if you said, "Wow, we're really proud of our client who solved this problem. We were happy we could help them. This is a great company." Then what happens is someone else sees it and goes, "Wow, that is a great company. Oh, and they help them? Oh, well, maybe that's something that we could use their help with also." So don't always just throw away Facebook because sometimes your friends and clients might connect other people in Facebook, but I do believe that LinkedIn and Twitter more likely to have people you're going to connect with from a business standpoint than you might find on those other platforms.
I can,
TikTok probably not big for legal.
although you will see some lawyers are going there and becoming big and instead of celebrity, whatever.
Yeah,
But I agree, I'm with you. And I think what you had just described is exactly, I think was also, as you know, my best-selling book about the attention switch. It's about giving attention, not getting attention. That's exactly what you said. If you go there, give attention to others, focusing on them, first it would be easier, right, Ian? And second, it will be not promoting. But the third, indirectly, they will like to learn how they can help you as well. So that's where it all starts. So I agree.
sure.
I mean, I think all of you listening, I know you, a lot of you authentic people don't like selling, but you hear what Ian said. It doesn't say you sell, but if you're interested in other people, help them, you're indirectly selling your services. You're indirectly selling, well, how can you help them solve their problem? And if you did it well, they'll tell your friends. They tell their friends, sorry.
Yeah, it's like there's a law firm we did a lot of work with, and it's someone I connected with in a social setting at a club, and the person just said, "Oh yeah, I do this and that. If you ever have questions about this stuff, let me know." So first time I reached out to him, I said, "Hey, here's a question. What do you think about this?" And he didn't immediately jump in and say, "Oh well, let me set up a contract with you to bill you for this." He said, "Look, if you just have a quick question or two, I'm happy to answer it." Well, what happened was we built kind of a relationship, and it's like, oh, this is someone who I can see as a trusted advisor. And I know that, look, if I need real help, this is the person I'm going to go to. He was smart enough at the time to say, okay, this guy's running a multi-billion-dollar company. I don't need to worry about billing him for 20 minutes of my time. I want to figure out how I get the business for his intellectual property work for the next 5 years. And by being generous with advice on a small scale, open up opportunities for big scale.
Definitely. And by the way, those of you joining us, thank you very much. Welcome, Yap. Welcome, Alex. Welcome, Danielle. I mean, I'm here with Ian Altman speaking about how to promote your expertise without selling. So it's not too late to join us. And feel free to type your question for Ian in the chat like Ada did. And so if you don't, I'll continue my next question to Ian. And, and I want you to help us because we like to give very practical advice to our global community that they can do something with it. So how to stay top of mind so that the client knows to reach out to you when the situation arises, because we know that only 20% of people need them, or maybe 2% of people need them when you talk to them first time. Most of them you follow up. So how do you do that in the right way, according to you?
Well, I think that a lot of this comes down to content marketing. And oftentimes people misunderstand the concept of content marketing. So, content marketing is not marketing that is promoting yourself. Content marketing is creating content that establishes your expertise that lets people think to themselves, wow, they can really help. So, for example, if you created regular content, and let's say you have an intellectual property practice, you might say, here are the three biggest things that people overlook when it comes to patents on an international scale. Or here are the biggest things that people forget about when it comes to employment agreements that bites them in the end. And your advice is not, you can have all the appropriate disclaimers. Again, everybody in professional services will tell me how, well, regulations mean that we can't say this, we can't do that, we can't offer legal advice. Great. You can put all those caveats, associated with your content. That's fine. You don't have to answer a question definitively. You just have to address the question. So the thing is that if you start saying, here are the biggest mistakes that technology companies make when it comes to protecting their intellectual property. Here are three things that cause people to lose their intellectual property without realizing it. Then all of a sudden, think about who's going to read that. Well, I want to create content for my target audience, for my ideal clients, and I just want to establish my expertise so that when something comes up, what's going on in their mind is, who have I heard the most from on this topic? Oh, it's so-and-so. Let me reach out to them. And so very often people say, oh, I don't want to create content. Or when they create content, they feel like they need to write a legal brief and they need to write a novella about the subject. You can write a page and a half that just says, here are the biggest pitfalls that people are subjected to when it comes to this topic. And just say, if you have additional questions about this, feel free to reach out. And over time, that's how you establish your expertise. And it could be in groups on LinkedIn where someone's posting something and you say, well, there are three different ways to address it based on what you said. You might want to consider A or B. If you have questions, feel free to reach out. And that way you're establishing your expertise, you're being generous with information, but you're not telling somebody, here's the legal answer to your specific question. In fact, in every case, you would probably want to give an answer that says, well, there are three different ways to address that. This way, or that way. Just something you should talk to with somebody you trust about this subject. And they might conclude to themselves, yeah, I need to talk to somebody. There's no one else I trust, so I'm going to contact you.
Great. And I think a lot of people listening to you and seeing exactly what you said in the beginning. That's not selling. That's actually sharing, helping. And guess what? Again, you're going to be promoting your self-services without selling, because you don't try to sell and push and think that people don't need, like a really normal salespeople, as we like to say. We're almost at the end of our conversation, Ian, and I want to summarize it by saying that, economic times that many people are tough. Buyers of specific professional services or maybe legal services are more demanding nowadays. And the professional services landscape is definitely changing in a different way, in a really massive way. And we see the future of legal services. And I think this conversation with you is actually a wake up call. And I know a lot of people asking, wake up call, what for? Because those professionals of you are unable to move away from the sanctity of the profession and the old way of doing things. Professionals today need to control their own financial destiny by getting out there and originating new business, creating new content, growing, helping, maintaining the practice. If you don't do it, you're not going to be surviving. And I want to summarize it, Ian, with a great quote I found by Rand Fishkin, the SEO of Moz, who said, best way to sell something is don't sell anything. And the respect, trust, awareness of those who might buy. And that's exactly what you just said. Don't try to sell. If you help accept people, as I think they're saying it there, nobody likes to be sold, but everybody loves to buy, right?
You know what? Another way I often say it is, when you meet somebody, you can either be seen as someone who's there to sell or someone who's there to solve. And you always want to show up as someone who's there to solve. And I'll give our audience one tip when it comes to networking. So if you go to an event, because now as things open up and you go to an event, if you can describe the kind of problems that you solve really well to a colleague, maybe you're a lawyer and you go to an event with an accountant and the accountant brings you. Don't promote yourself, promote them. So when you meet people, you say, oh, well, there's a buddy of mine, here's what they do in their accounting practice. People usually come to them because they're trying to solve this problem, or that problem. I'd love to make the introduction. I think he's somewhere here tonight. And then they're doing the same thing for you. And that way they're each driving people to the other one. And then you don't feel like you're promoting yourself because you're not. Someone's doing it for you.
And by the way, it's also get tactics to get rid of boring people to introduce them to somebody else and move away. So thanks for that, Ian. So now, my friend, it's time to take action. You learned so much. I know it's a very short time, but go now implement what you've learned in this session. We have here with Ian Altman. I mean, he's amazing, nice guys, but he's an expert and leader on sales. And again, you can learn more about Ian in his workshop on his own website. And I can put it again that you all can see, ianaltman.com. And you can see there also his academy, Same Style Academy, and the link. And feel free to reach to him, connect him on LinkedIn and everywhere else. I'm sure he'll be glad to help. And there will be more coming your way with Ian and myself. We're sure we're working some nice things. I mean, you see how authentic the guy is. I mean, how many of you met sales people are really authentic and powerful? Here you go. So now you met at least one. So I want to thank you, Ian, for that and for joining us today. So thank you very, very much for that.
It's always a pleasure to talk to you, my friend.
It was fantastic. The time passed so fast. And Ian and myself want to thank each one of you joining us, taking the time. I mean, I suggest listen also to the replay. There's so many nuggets there. I think you want to think twice before you're doing. So remember our next session next Tuesday, 6 p.m. Central European Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time. And remember, it's never too late to switch on the right mindset to grow your practice. With that, thank you, Ian. Thank everybody. Bye for now.